Welcome to the Fresh CrEd. Today, we're joined by Yan Branco, Head of Produce Sourcing Innovation at Sobeys. Yan's career path has taken him from the fields to the forefront of innovation. And today, he's sharing the challenges and lessons learned in adopting new technology in the produce industry. Join us for an insightful look at how patience, partnerships, and a passion for produce make an impact. Today's episode of the Fresh CrEd is brought to you by Lakeway Produce. From field to fork, Lakeway is a grower-based distribution company delivering fresh, high-quality vegetables to retailers and food service partners across the U.S. With farms in Mexico, Lakeway offers a diverse range of produce from wet and dry vegetables like lettuce, celery, broccoli, and squash to hothouse specialties, perfect for adding a kick to your favorite dishes. Lakeway is also committed to sustainability, offering many of these items in organic options, conveniently packaged to suit any need. With a state-of-the-art distribution center in Pharr, Texas, Lakeway is positioned to bring freshness and efficiency to every delivery. Trust Lakeway for quality produce and outstanding service. Learn more at lakewayproduce.com.
So joining us today is Mr. Yan Branco, Lead Produce Sourcing Innovation and CEA Development at Sobeys. Thanks for joining us, Yan.
Well, thanks for having me.
That's a badass last name.
Thank
I
you.
love your last name.
Thank you. It's Portuguese.
Is it really?
Yeah.
So it has nothing to do with horses.
No.
Jan's been here all week, just as we have. You've spoken on some panels as well, right? I caught part of it. There was a lot going on in that session that day. How did that go, by the way? Or maybe share with our audience what the topics were, what y'all were speaking about that day.
Yeah, the main topic or the overarching topic was around how can marketers or grower, at least how I got it, like, because, marketer can include growers, right, and producers, and retailers work better together and collaborate to increase produce consumption, right? So that would be the overarching topic of the...
We need more consumption.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great mission, if you will.
Yeah, and especially if you're looking at U.S. versus Canada, where I'm from, I think the consumption per capita and up north is higher than in the U.S. So obviously, I think here it should be a mission to increase consumption.
So I mean, and I'm going to put you on the spot, and if I put you on the spot, we'll have to cut this out. But what is the difference in consumption? I'm curious because I'm fairly familiar with European consumption.
Right. I don't have the exact number, so I know you're putting me on the spot, but I do know that per pound, per kg, per capita it's higher in Canada.
Yeah, Europe's almost double U.S. per capita consumption when it comes to fruits and vegetables.
Right. So I wouldn't know where Canada stands versus Europe, but it's certainly higher than the States.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Texas, Texas of the north. Is Texas a pretty big consumption area for fruits and vegetables?
I would say a pretty big consumption area.
Let's
just put it that way.
Texas, yeah, for sure.
Definitely need to do a little more of walking the talk, for sure. Even in the produce industry. I mean, we talk about that all the time in our other shows. As folks in the industry, even like really walking the talk, and people who are selling this product, consuming it and taking advantage of the health benefits is definitely. I think we could all use more of that. Let's put it that way.
Right, and what's interesting is I'm on the retail council. And a lot of the conversation is around that, is how do we educate customers? How do we remove barriers to increase consumptions and so on and so forth? And how do we provide more access to low-income families? You guys are, I think, well familiar with that WIC program.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the kind of topic that it keeps popping up in the retail council.
Start them early and educate them. Yeah, for
Absolutely.
Sure. All right, so we could get into all the heady stuff of produce and consumption, but let's talk about you, a leader in the industry, out of Canada, Texas of the North, as Ed will call it. But seriously, tell us about you. So Portuguese last name.
Right.
Where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Montreal, the Montreal area.
Okay.
So born and raised as a francophone. Not knowing a single word of English. So learned my English when I started to work at Loblaws later on. So yeah,
Really?
in my early 20s, I learned English actually. So,
Wow.
which is
So-
it was kind of interesting.
How many languages do you speak?
Two,
Two.
French and English.
Okay.
English.
No Portuguese.
No Portuguese, unfortunately. And I tell my dad, like, why?
Yeah,
Why?
exactly. Yeah.
I guess it wasn't part of his.
It's not too late.
All right. So, young Branco, young
Yeah.
Branco. What was it like growing up?
It was so my dad was and still is in agriculture. So I grew up surrounded by hundreds of acres of lands of black soil or muck soil. They were growing, green onions, radishes, and all kinds of
Okay.
greens, cooking greens. So my very first paid job was at 14, and my dad put me to work. And actually, if you could give an award to a parent to teach a hardworking lesson, I think he would win it, because it was a carrot field, and I would just weed the carrot field like on my knees at 14. So that was like a hard lesson as a first job. So that was my first contact, really, per se.
So you're at 14 on your knees in a field, and
Correct.
you're thinking to yourself, "This is what I want to do with the rest of my life."
Not necessarily.
Where did I go wrong?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Is this punishment or,
Yeah,
or what? Right?
exactly.
Thanks, Dad.
Well, so yeah, so you start there. Family's
Yeah.
in the business. Did you always think you were going to be a produce person?
No, and really, so this was obviously more of a summer job. But then when I turned 16, I started to work at the local grocery store that was Provigo back then. That was purchased by Loblaws later on, and yeah, I started part-time in the produce department, and then the rest is history. I never looked back, actually. So.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So and then to run you through my journey. So it started like 31 years ago. Like, I can hardly believe for how long I've been in the industry, but I'm feeling older every time I mention this. But so the first 8 years were in the stores. So I started part-time, and then after 3 years, I became produce manager. So I worked in about 4 different stores. They were all maxi stores, like discount banner. And then after that, there was an opportunity for me to work at the warehouse, at the distribution center on the operation side. And I did that for about, I'm going to say, a year and a half. And then an opportunity came up to work on the QC side, on quality control side. And then I think this is where it really started, because I really enjoyed that. So I did that for a few years. And then really the spark was when Loblaws was establishing a field team in Canada. So they were opening up positions in different regions. So applied, and I got that vendor development manager role in Quebec. And I was covering Quebec, but also the maritime provinces. So, and this was my first experience with the working directly with the growers. And then this was about 2010, give or take.
Yeah.
And this is when I really got on the road and then get to know growers from all over the province, but also in the maritime. So with English Canada, right? Because we have 2 Canadas, if you don't know. And so there's Quebec and the rest of the country, the Rock. They call it the Rock, the rest of the country. And then so I had a blast for I'm gonna say about 2-3 years in that position. And then at that time, a position of senior manager opened up at the So Fresh office in Fresno, California. So I threw my name in the hat, and I got the job. So Loblaws relocated me in Fresno, basically, from Montreal.
Okay.
Which was quite the culture shock. And then so from there I started working more directly with the team, the entire team. So we had, and they still have, people positioned across the country, across the U.S., Mexico, South America, and Spain. So I really got exposure to a number of regions. So, and then while I was there, I got promoted to senior director. So then I got to run the team for a bit. And about 2016, my wife and I were okay, so we've been
So
here.
now you're in Fresno at this time?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're still in Fresno
Yeah,
in
we're
2016. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So we made the decision to go back to Canada, just because we were far from the family. Like,
Right.
it was finding it a little bit hard. But we moved to Ontario rather than Quebec because the procurement office, Loblaw's procurement office, is in Cambridge, Ontario. So moved to Kitchener in 2016, where I continued to manage the team from there. And about 2 years after or so, I made the jump from Loblaws to Sobeys. And then, yesterday, I guess, I celebrated 6 years with Sobeys already. So time flies.
Congrats.
So I've held a few positions within Sobeys, like on the merchandising side, on the procurement side, overseeing QC, overseeing the field operation. And now, since I'm going to say about eight months, I've been focusing on this current role that I have, which is focusing on innovation within produce, but also looking at the whole controlled environment agriculture development, right? So to make sure that Sobeys is at the forefront of it.
Wow, that's a heck of a story. So
Yeah.
I was going to ask you. I mean, I think if we talk to a lot of young people. There have been shows where we talk to, I say kids, but young people that are still in college, about to launch their careers. We've talked to some professors about the kind of the same subject, and I think if we've talked to folks and say to them, try to learn as much as you can. And my question is, so I would say you've done things very well. How much you knew that you were doing it, at the time, or how aware you were of like learning all of the facets of the business over time? Was it intentional, or at the time were you thinking that was somebody guiding you or leading you to that, or was it just strictly opportunity driven and circumstance?
I would say it's opportunity driven. You don't necessarily realize, and you don't I didn't have like a clear end goal to reach. I was just rolling with it and just having a blast doing it, and I've always really enjoyed the relationship aspect, within the produce industry, and I get along with people, and I love building those relationships, and I think that's what makes us better, right? And no, it's just I wouldn't say like probably by accident, so to speak, right? As opportunities came up. Right, and they often say chance is like when preparation meets the opportunity, right? But I didn't really prepare. Like I just learned like within those different roles and changing countries and having the privilege to visit growers and suppliers from around the world, right? Like and understanding what keeps them up at night and what they're aiming for, and then you realize that. Whether you're a small grower like in Quebec or you're a big corporation wherever in the world or in Chile or Spain, like you're all trying to achieve the same thing, right? It's grow a good piece of fruit and sell it and for people to consume, right? So at the end of the day, we're not saving lives, we're just feeding people, which is a super noble cause, right?
But with every move, there was clearly risk, right? So you're not,
of course,
you don't sound like a risk-averse person. I mean, there's a risk with every move, right? But it seems like every move you made was for the better.
Yeah,
I mean, there might have been some hiccups and speed bumps in there, but
yeah,
I think that's a lesson. There's a lesson in that as well, right?
Absolutely, and a funny story. And so when I applied for that role in California, like I fondly remember. So I'm in Montreal, stuck in the traffic. Oh, surprise! And then my phone rings, and it's the VP of procurement that calls me. And he goes, Yan, I know you applied. We can make it happen. Like I'm reading around, between the line, and
right.
But like if you say yes, like you say yes, because once the train departs and that whole relocation process starts, like we don't want to have to.
There's no getting off the train.
Thank you. Yeah. Exactly. So like okay, so his name is Frank. So I said, Frank, yeah, let me speak with my wife, just because the conversation I had with my wife up to this point, like she's willing. I have to give it to her. Like we would never have moved down to Cali, obviously without her support. and because back then we had two very young kids too, so it's a big move, and nobody speaks English, right? Like, quite frankly. So I get home, so we have dinner, and I said, her name is Maryse. I said, Maryse, we got to talk after dinner, right? So we sit down, and so she sits down. I said, listen, I had Frank call me, and looks like it's going to happen, but if we're in, right? Like, there's no going back. She looks at me, no hesitation. I'm in. When do we leave? I'm like, and then from that point on, I understood. I was like, okay, there's no going back.
Yeah, perfect.
But you're absolutely right, because now you're taking your family to a different country and different culture, obviously different reality,
different language.
Am I going to enjoy that job? Am I going to be miserable? Right? Like, so then what if I don't like it? What if we don't like it? Right? Like, it's a big move. It's not like I'm switching from this company to this company from across the street, because now you're, in a matter of a few days, like, you sold the house, the cars are on a flatbed to California, like, and you've got 4 luggage with your kids.
That's it.
Like, and then you just go, right? So that was risk.
You have to make the best of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And
At the same time, it was an opportunity, right? I mean, definitely
Absolutely.
to expose your children to a different world.
a different language too. They're now bilingual, which is awesome.
Right.
And yeah, like, great experience to be in California, in the salad bowl of the U.S., and be on the ground and really get a deep understanding of, like, the forces in play, right? And the season, the regions, the players. So which
So in total, how many years were you there?
3.5.
3.5. That's significant.
Yeah, it is. Like, that was long enough to.
So I'm curious about the bumps, though. All right. So Ed mentioned, through this journey, do you got a particular bump challenge throughout this journey that you faced that you had to overcome?
Through, I'm gonna say, I can't pinpoint one bump in particular, but there were a few times in my career where, I wasn't successful as I thought I would be, and really I had to take a step back. But I think over the years, like, I've developed lots of resilience, and I think one of the thing I think that is I feel strongly about is my passion for produce and the relationship with the people, right, within the industry. And I'm just a passionate guy, and then I always try to make the most out of any successes or failure, right, or step back,
Right.
I would say, right. So you got to roll with the punch, and then just keep going. And I guess I think you learn things every time, and how, like, okay, how could I have approached this, in a different way? Like, what did I do wrong, so to speak? And so there's lots of learning, and I think that's the important. And I think failure is part of success, right?
100%.
In your journey, right? It's not a flat line. Anyway, for me, it was a little bit of I wouldn't say a roller coaster, but ebbs and flows throughout my career, where I had to take a step back and take it on the chin, and then you
Reevaluate
Yeah.
and recalculate. Yeah.
recalculate, and then just, like, you pick you get back up, you dust off, and then you keep going, right? So
Great.
So you're in the innovation space for produce. It's not necessarily known for an innovation in terms of produce. We tend to be way behind when it comes to innovation. What we know about indoor growing, and I'm a big believer that is somebody's going to figure that out.
Right.
Not. I mean, let's face it. Canada really, for North America, they were the forerunners in
Right.
terms of bringing that from Europe into the glass houses and things
Right.
like that. There's no question about that. But now where we sit today, right? So beyond the glass, beyond that, is AI? Is that in your vision right now? Is it AI that's going to be the big difference maker for the industry, or what do you see, or what do you? I guess looking forward, what do you think is going to be the game changer for the industry in terms of innovation?
I think AI will certainly be one, and I think it will be a big enabler with the different aspect of the industry and each part of the supply chain, right? Like it's becoming more and more evident. But I think the next, because you've talked about the greenhouses or the glass houses, but then now we've got, I'm saying now, like we've seen or heard all the vertical farms, right?
Yeah.
That obviously there's a few years ago there was a big frenzy about it, right? And it went like a little bit like when you're looking at the investment within the sector, obviously it went significantly. There was a big correction, right? And people going bankrupt and everything. So, but I think despite the fact that it's been difficult, I think it's there to stay, and it's going to be part of the portfolio in terms of like from a retailer perspective in terms of sourcing produce, right? I don't think it's going to replace everything, obviously, but it's going to be there, right? And we need to see it as it's a long game. It's still a young industry. Like I'm putting greenhouse aside because it's been there for decades and centuries in some cases, right? But I think the vertical farming will continue to evolve and hopefully become profitable because it's still difficult.
It's a tough business when you're growing in dirt to make money in this business, and then when you start.
Let alone, when you invest like $60 or $80 million in one farm, right? And in capex, it makes it even more difficult. But I have faith in the industry. Like it's going to correct itself, and then people will learn. And because if you look at the vertical farming for the last, let's call it 10, 12 years, it has evolved a lot, right? Like from a LED efficiency point of view, or many different things within vertical farming. But I think the industry will continue to mature. And one thing I often share with leadership at my company is like, this is not a sprint. This is a marathon. Like we need to be careful on how we go about it, right? Like, and so if you go. We had one experience where we went really fast, and it was very painful when it failed. So I think obviously we have that under our belt, so it's a good learning. So leadership is very receptive, and they are expecting us to get involved, but like in a methodical manner, right, and thoughtful manner with with different players. And I think the challenge too is that. We've been doing business for decades on reputation and track record, and then I know you, I'm going to be buying your product. Like we've been doing business for 5, 10, 20, 25 years, right? So it makes it easier, but then those players are coming along with no track record and those big promises, right? And big plans, big ambition, quite frankly. And for us as retailer, I call it the leap of faith. Like so it's very challenging for retail to navigate those water. So
I mean, outsider looking in on the and we're actually involved with Sunfed is involved with an indoor very small project we're doing some stuff with, but outside looking in on some of the bigger things, I feel like and you can comment one way or the other, but I feel like that they don't usually have enough produce actual people involved with these projects. It is the people that are technically smart. They understand the technology piece of it, but they don't understand this business and the competitiveness of it, and
like markets and
and markets and things like that. I mean, would you agree that that's been kind of the bigger misstep is kind of the folks that are.
You're stealing words from my mouth.
Okay.
And sometimes, like I've seen very fancy deck in the past, and then you see the board of the company or the senior leadership of the company, and I'm looking through it, and I'm like, where's the farmer?
Yeah.
100%. Right? Yeah. Where's the farmer? And then you get on a call with them, and then they're coming, with some like their strategy. And you're thinking like, okay, so you don't understand retail. Like, no, like, so you have to more often than not, like take a step back with them to explain a little bit like what the retail world looks like and what we're looking for and the forces at play. And, right? And then what you should be looking for, what you should be coming to the table with, right? So yes, like there's lots of, I was like, whoa, like.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Yeah, and
Yeah.
and the people that are typically putting, I mean, the big money that's coming into it, they're used to software. They're used to a whole different margin setup too, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, and
highly competitive, but not perishable. That's it.
well, not perishable, and like I say, that they legitimately have margins that are significantly bigger than what a farmer
Yeah, and that
experiences.
a big attitude of build it and they'll come to buy it.
Yeah.
Right. Like so it's like you sit down with them and it's like more like a no-brainer. Oh, I'm gonna have that lettuce, so of course you're gonna buy it. Maybe not, right?
Yeah.
So
For sure. I mean, everybody loves the story, right? It's less water, you know, environment, all the things. It's a great story, but at the end of the day, it has to be priced where consumers, you know, we're already battling a consumption challenge trying to grow that.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, I mean, cost is relevant.
yeah,
At the
super
consumer
relevant. No, super relevant, and yeah, it's to me, it's like, tell me, like, if you sit down with me, tell me how you're gonna help me drive that program. How are we gonna sell? And also, I think when we're saying, my farm uses 95% less water, it's like telling me that the Cheerios don't have cholesterol. Like, I'm expecting that. It's a baseline, or my
that's
car.
That's where you start.
Hey,
Right?
I'm selling you this Honda, and there's airbags. Well,
Okay.
they all have airbags, right? So, but then I think with and if there's a message for those out there, like, wanting to get into the vertical farming industry, is like you got to approach retailers with solutions, with ideas on how to, because what I tell suppliers is, the work doesn't stop once you get your product on the shelf. It doesn't stop there.
Right.
Like what are you gonna do to help me do more promotions? Is it a loyalty play? Is it demo at store level? Is that like so? But oftentimes they come to you with some kind of costing structure, not taking any of that into account.
Right.
So then they're saying, oh, I'm gonna sell it to you at X, but then, hey, I need this, I need that. Like, I was like, oh shit, right? So.
So, I mean, with those challenges, right? So this is the question, for me, as I look at it, is, will we be able to actually figure that out, right? In other words, will we be able, or is it just too much expense, too much technology to get to that next level?
I think we'll get there, but I think there's a need for more collaboration within the industry, because it's like Formula One, like 20 years ago, where like everybody was building his own model and nothing was shared, or right, like
Yeah.
So then I think like people like get over the IP stuff, or you have to decide: are you a technology provider or you're a grower?
Right.
And then hopefully one day we get to a point where there's that knowledge sharing, but then someone that wants to get into the industry, then you can buy like practical solutions that are less expensive, and then you're gonna end up with the same result, like with a great product, right?
Right.
I truly believe, like as I said earlier, like in the past 12, 15 years, we've seen lots of progress in terms of efficiency, but I think in the next 15, I think this is where like the industry will work on, hopefully, in getting the cost down so it becomes profitable. And also we need to, I think it's important that like it was a frenzy, like everybody was trying to get into it,
Yeah.
like the VC, I was in the front row, but I think we need to think about where we put those farms, right? Where, as I was mentioning earlier, it's a complement to the field, to the greenhouse. So perhaps, maybe it's remote location, or in Dubai. Dubai, it makes sense because obviously everything is so expensive over there, so you can probably make it work, right? So I think you need to pick your spot, your regions, and then it becomes like a portfolio. There's no silver bullet. I think that's what's very important.
Well, let's face it, though. I mean, from what I know about CEA can fit on the head of a pin, but I did read something recently that was interesting. a lot of what happened early on as far as CEA, I would assume, and still to a large degree, is out of necessity, right? In Canada, we look at weather.
Yep.
I'm not intimately familiar with the country, but I can make a pretty good assumption that weather is a challenge.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I was reading about Europe after World War II, and governments in Europe, obviously realizing that they were too food dependent on other countries or other sources, and that's where a lot of CEA started in Europe,
Absolutely.
so they could grow their own fruits and vegetables and be less dependent on outside sources. And it was, obviously exacerbated by the results of the war. So in Canada, very similar. It's not just kind of a marketing thing, right? It's a necessity.
Absolutely. Well, I guess it's not a coincidence that there are so many greenhouses, in Leamington or across the country,
Right.
Obviously, right? And what we've been seeing in the UE, like all those big investments and in vertical farming, it's no coincidence, right? It's a desert, so
Sure.
and it's way too hot for greenhouses. So then vertical farming may be the option there to kind of reduce dependency on imports. So.
All right, so that's the technology. I really want to touch real quick on the consumption piece of it, right? Because that's a big deal. Both Ed and I, kind of the origination of this podcast was he and I talking, and one of the big things was around, some life changes that he and I went through being in this business, the consumption of more fruits and vegetables and that kind of thing, and having a lifestyle change and how you eat and that kind of stuff. What is it we're missing? Why do they eat more in Europe or in Canada than North America? What is it we're missing, and how is it we make that connection?
That's $1 million question.
I know. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I have to say a big piece of it is education and culture, like in your household, growing up. One of the shock that my wife and I had when we moved down to Fresno, like in our neighborhood, obviously our kids started to have friends and on the streets and whatnot, and there was my daughter's friends, like she would knock on the door on a Saturday morning at 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. like to play with her, and would open the door and then she would like have a Dr. Pepper can.
Yeah. Breakfast of champions right there.
And I'm I'm thinking great breakfast, right? But to me, like when we moved down, so my son was 3.5 and my daughter was 7. So the first time they had like a pop was in Fresno, right? Like obviously perhaps it's just our household, but it's just like how you're being educated on what to eat, and you have to. It's a hard battle because you're
discipline there.
There's discipline, and also it's hard because the CPG, and this is something we talk on the Retail Council, is that the CPG companies have millions of dollars in marketing.
Yeah.
Right, and then they're plastering all billboards and everything with Cheetos and chocolates and whatever, all these things, but hey, produce is nowhere to be found on these, right? Like there's our exception. I don't want to.
No, but 100%. I mean,
right.
I think I'm aligned with what you're talking about. I mean, you mentioned I don't know if we were on the pod or before, but we talked about the WIC program,
right?
Women, Infant, and Children program. So when early in my career, '99, I was part of the leadership group. I was one of the Class 4 United Leadership Group, right?
Okay.
And the deal was getting fruits and vegetable on WIC. Okay, so it seems like a no-brainer, right? That would be there.
Yeah.
But it's not.
It took what? How many years?
It took another 10 years before So I did that in '99, and it's somewhere between 7 and 10 years. I forgot exactly when it got through, but I remember thinking. One, when we went to the Hill with it, I thought, well, this ought to be easy. Well, it's a real good lesson in how DC works, right? DC works very slow, even on good ideas. You can only imagine, how it does with everything else. But yeah, it took that many years to get on there. And why? Why is it? Because the money, right? The dairy industry has a ton of dollars. The grain industry. look at the food pyramid that they built when I was a kid. The food pyramid that I was taught.
There are some old marketing campaigns that are out there that are now taken as 100% accurate, and not all of them are. Let's say.
Yeah.
Like non-produce, right?
Yeah. So it's really the dollars. It's amazing. Like I say, we work on a very thin margin. It's a thin margin business, particularly at the farm level, and not having the dollars to educate, but like you say, introduce at an early age.
Absolutely.
Right? Like you said, Dr. Pepper for breakfast, that's a normal, or was when I was a kid growing up. I have to. Tanya did a lot for the kids. Dad was, in fact, the kids used to come to my office. My oldest daughter, that she liked to come to my dad's office because I had a little refrigerator there, and I had all the stuff we didn't have at home. I had the Pop-Tarts, I had the Cokes and all that kind of stuff. And like I say, hats off to my wife, because she was very much an advocate on the sodas. In fact, much to the chagrin of my kids, she actually ran basically the campaign to get soda machines out of the schools. She was like, why do they have Coke machines? Our kids were buying, Cokes and chips for lunch, and it's like, that shouldn't even be there.
Right.
So anyway, shout out Tanya. There you go. Little hats off. But so as an industry, we have to figure out how do we do this without the dollars.
Yeah, or work together to get the dollars, right? That's the piece, because obviously they have got those big name brands or brand names on the CPG side that there's a few, right, within produce. So how do we work together as an industry, and perhaps with the IFPA to get front and center, right? Give visibility to the produce that I think is critical, right? Not an easy one. Obviously I'm being realistic here, but hopefully over the years to come we can continue to move the needle on that.
A lot of it happens in DC, so we're lucky to have IFPA there fighting for, and Kathy said, fight for fresh the other day, because it's worth fighting for.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Well, and it's folks like you with the passion that you've got, right? That 14-year-old kid, picking weeds, right? But you learn from that, right? And now you're taking and sharing and pushing that knowledge further on. So all right. So I've seen the wave over there. I'm sure it was more than 5 minutes ago when he was waving at me, but so we do need to kind of draw it to a close. But real quick, I want to bring it back. So you've got 2 kids?
Yep, 2 kids.
Right. And are they in Canada? Where are they at now?
Yeah, we're all in Ontario, 15 and 18. Yeah.
Are they in the business?
No, they're not. And not planning to, but who knows?
Right, you never know how the world turns. Right?
Exactly.
Weirder things have happened.
And your spouse says she's not in the business either?
No, she's a teacher.
Okay, very nice.
So, if I may, I'd love to extend the invite to you guys to the CPMA trade show. If you're planning on being there, so I'm the convention chair this year. We're celebrating 100th anniversary, so please feel free to pop in.
Add it to the list.
So, do you by chance know Tom Coleman?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So he's going to be, and if you know Tom, he's a great personality. Just a great individual. But contemplating. So the challenge both Ed and I have is literally we're going to have to go to Canada, and then go straight down to Texas for Viva Fresh. So
I see.
Right now I'm trying to plan to be there. For the first couple of days, and then bolt off down to Texas. But we're going to, ideally, I brought up Tom, we're going to be able to do an interview with Mr. Coleman while we're up there in beautiful Canada.
But simply, if you want to visit, right? I'm not saying you have to bring the whole.
Definitely put it on the Fresh CrEd tour. We've got a list, but I like the idea.
Yeah. If you need interesting speakers or connections, anything, I'm happy to help.
And since we're giving shout out to our good friend JF DeLorme for connecting us.
Yes, it was an unexpected phone call, to be honest. You want to be in a podcast or what?
I get unexpected phone calls from JF.
Well, hopefully this was a good experience, your first podcast. I hope
first
you
ever.
This
was fun, lots of fun. Thanks for having me.
And like I say, I'm sure the listeners, like I say, it's a chance for, people see your name, they see you on panels, but they don't really know that you were a 14-year-old kid picking weeds in a carrot field. So,
it's cool. It doesn't, for folks that don't grow up in the business or in business, it doesn't take away from, you're really like one of the lucky ones, right? Or folks that actually get exposed at an early age to the business and make it part of your life, or make it your life's work, if you will. So you're very fortunate.
No, thank you.
All right, well, guys, time to, I guess, go hit the show floor. And
we're gonna hit the show floor for a little bit.
Let's do that.
Talk to some people, stretch our legs. There's plenty of
leg
stretching, big time leg stretching opportunities here.
Perfect.
At the World Congress, or Atlanta World Congress Convention Center.
I stretched my legs last night.
Oh, did you?
Oh man, did I ever?
Good.
Yeah.
A little dancing?
A little dancing, actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. A little karaoke, a little dancing, whole 9 yards.
I was in my room studying.
I know you were. You're so professional.
Yes, and I feel fantastic.
Yeah, thank you very much. We appreciate it, and we'll see you out there on the show floor.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Take care. You got it.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Fresh CrEd. We hope you enjoyed getting an inside look at the produce industry with Yan Branco. A big thank you to our title sponsor for this episode, Lakeway Produce, for helping bring this conversation to life. And we'd also like to thank our other incredible partners who made this entire series possible: the International Fresh Produce Association, HM Produce, Kern Ridge Growers, Equifruit, JR Imports, Sunfed, and IFCO. Don't miss our upcoming episodes, where we'll continue exploring the voices shaping the future of produce. Make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more industry insights.